Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mama Geniuspreneur Podcast. I'm so excited for our next guest. Listen up. Have you been pushing forward, doing your best, but something just feels off? You're handling the school drop-offs, replying to emails between meetings, maybe even running a business on top of it all, and yet you keep hitting that wall. How much you're feeling that reoccurring frustration, a project that just drains you, a situation that feels like you're doing everything right and still not getting anywhere. That's why today's guest, Dr. Charlotte Gurule, asks a different question. What if it's happening to me, but for me? In this episode, Charlotte's going to share her own fencing jumping moment, the day she realized the very problem she was trying to manage was actually pointing towards her purpose. If you've ever felt stuck in someone else's version of success, or wondered what your next step could be, this is an invitation to jump right in with us today. We'll get started right after this. Mamas, welcome to the Mama Geniuspreneur Podcast, where real stories spark real transformations for moms ready to bring their visions to life. I'm Michelle DeKaiser, a mom of 3, entrepreneur, and your biggest cheerleader if you've ever felt pulled to create something bigger, whether it's a business, a book, or a movement, but also felt the weight of daily life slowing you down. You are not alone. In just 15 minutes, we'll dive into insights, strategies, and real stories for women like you. Let's bring your visions to life, starting now. And I got Dr. Charlotte Gurule here, is the founder of CMG Strategies and leader in the creative intelligence coaching and corporate learning strategies. With over 30 years of experience across education, tech, aviation, and beyond, she empowers entrepreneurs, executives, and change makers to reimagine what's possible. Through her Genius and Chaos framework, on the Mama Genius, right? She helps women turn frustration into purpose and design life that actually fits who they are, whether you're building that business or rebuilding your confidence. Charlotte's work will help you shift your mindset and leap into the zone of your greatest potential. Welcome to the Genius. We're going to talk genius today because that's what this is all about. Welcome, Charlotte.
Thank you, Michelle. So happy to be here. I'm super excited to be here. I appreciate you extending the invitation to me.
I'm so excited. And I just want to jump into your moment of what caused that chaos for you and your over the fence moment.
As you stated in the intro, thank you. I have been in the talent and development, career coaching for decades. Talent development for over 3 decades. And one of my last projects, we actually outsourced the project instead of doing it in-house with my department, thinking that our department didn't have the bandwidth to do the project. I thought we did have the bandwidth, but not the stakeholders. So stakeholders went out, and the very first meeting that I had with this consultant went sideways, like the very first 5 minutes. And it was as simple as, can we just have more creative titles for the training? That's it. Let's be a little more fun with our titles. And that spurred the entire project. That derailed the project from their side of the business, which then derailed it completely for the entire time. And I'm talking about a $500,000 price tag on this project. And so I kept, as the project manager, I walked with the consultant and met with everyone every week, kept going through everything. And I just kept saying to my manager and in the emails to the stakeholders that this isn't going right. This isn't what we hired this consultant to do, is not what we're getting. And I just remember standing in my manager's office and actually jumped and said, I'm on the wrong side of this fence. Like, we're on the wrong side of this fence. And that was the moment. That was just the moment. And then like, what can I do? So then I was really like, think about yourself like you're pinned in a fence.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt for the next, it was about a 5-month project for like the next 2 to 3 months. So I'm just like walking the line. I can't get over the fence. And I can't everything that I tried, the communication, everything that I was trying to do, for some reason, I just couldn't get over it. And that was really, it was a huge learning lesson for myself. You know, you start questioning, what could I have done differently? What should I have done differently? Is there anything I really could have done differently that wouldn't have resulted in the result? And after $500,000 of payment to the consultant, they did not deliver the project. We had to start all over again from scratch. I'd say 10%, because we did have like a PowerPoint, branded PowerPoint design, you know, colors, things like that.
But not what you were attending at all.
No. And it was hard not to take it personal. It was hard not to take it personal. And it really, like, even my manager's like, well, they just don't like you. And I was like, wow, I've been here 7 years. Wow. Yeah, it was quite the moment.
Well, and I mean, sometimes we feel that way all the time. I can picture that cage right there that you're just talking about, like you're just walking in, you're the cage, the cage animal right there, just going back and forth, and like you're caged into behind this fence. So we'll be back in just a moment. We're gonna go through how do we get out of that cage.
Sounds great.
Are you a mompreneur who feels a fire to create something bigger, a business, a movement, a message, but you don't want to do it alone? That's why I've created the Mama Genius Hub, a space where your vision is nurtured, your voice is heard, and your dreams grow alongside a supportive community. Inside the hub, you'll get bite-sized insights and strategies in 15-minute sessions. A community of like-minded moms who truly get it. Support to bring your vision to life without burnout. If ready to build your business and impact while staying true to yourself, join us today at connectingmamas.com. Your calling matters. Let's grow it together. And we're back. So I really want to jump into that idea, because I know we have the question of thinking about what if it was happening for me instead of to me.
Absolutely.
And I've heard that multiple times, but I'm sure you have such a different takeaway of that. But moms, I know that a lot of you listening feel that way, where you just feel like, especially those of you who are starting businesses or doing something, and you just feel pigeonholed or inside that on the other wrong side of the fence.
Wrong side of the fence.
What do you do, Dr. Charlotte?
It was very surreal. It was very surreal. I had not pictured myself starting my own business, but I always knew in the back of my mind that I was going to have a business since, 18, 19 years old. I'm gonna have a business, but I thought I was going to be through my husband, who has his own business. And I thought, oh, well, I guess this is the avenue we're going. And as I sat with it for a little, I sat with it, and I really had to ask myself, what did I do? Because at the end of the day, it's happening to me, right? It was happening to me. I have to take responsibility for it all. And at the end of all of that, it just so happened to be in a year-long business development program for my husband, where I was able to attend as a spouse, and the support that he was receiving, I think it just kind of by osmosis came over to me. And I started to realize, because the first thing you think about, and myself, I've been in corporate America, all of my career has been in corporate America, all of it. And so I started thinking to myself, here's all of my skills. Should I just go get another job?
Yeah, the
right?
JOB comes up.
Because that's the easy solution. That's my go-to. That's what that's what I've done all of my life. And I really had to really, really think about why. Why do I want to go get a JOB? And so I started doing all these analogies. And then my husband actually left his corporate career 40 years last year also. So now we're in this big, holy Toledo, what are we doing kind of people. And I remember being out on a run together, maybe a couple of weeks after this happened. And I started thinking, corporate America is like living at your parents' house when you have a job. They take care of all your needs, right? They take care of all your needs. They provide you medical. They provide you with a means to feed and house yourself. They provide you community. If you do want that, your little nuclear family. And I started thinking about when I moved out of my mom's house years ago, I had to get my own medical. I had to find a means to get food, shelter, all those things. And I was a single mom with 2 kids, and it was not the funnest time of life. I was a teenage pregnant mom. So there was a lot going on back then. And I just remember thinking, well, I did it then, and I didn't have any skills. Here I am, I have no skill. And now here I am, I have 3 decades of skills and a whole lot more wisdom behind me. So why not say yes to myself for a change?
So how do we apply those skills? And I'm thinking about moms who have skills with their kids or skills with that. How do we apply those skills to figuring out the next step?
So I think the first thing could be to do is I actually have an assessment called the fence jumping assessment, where you can identify where you're stuck on the wrong side of your own potential. And the first thing, the part 1 is really the frustration audit. And I would advise go through the frustration audit. There's part 1, 2, and 3. And then you can really start looking at yourself as something that might be like I find myself complaining about the same problems repeatedly without taking action. Is that a 1 never or a 5 always, as an example? And then that's the first part, is the frustration audit. The second part would be, how do you tap into your creative genius or your creative intelligence and genius as a mom? How do you recognize, how do you filter through that? And one of those things could be, people often ask my advice or opinion on X. You might be the mom that knows exactly where all of the sales are at. Or, like this new cookbook store opened up, whatever that might be. That's another thing. And then you start thinking about what are your repeated compliments? What are your secret powers? And then you just start digging into yourself, and then eventually it comes up.
I love that so much because it's so true. And I love that you brought up the whole idea of the frustration component and the things that we kind of go in that cycle of complaint. And I've always brought this up before, is that's kind of what drove me to want to learn more, because I felt like I was also surrounded by people who were always in that complaint cycle. And then I found myself more and more doing that because of that. And so I feel like I love that you're having people identify those aspects to really move forward, because when we start to identify, again, that awareness, because otherwise we're stuck. You're stuck in that circular, and you're on the fence going back and forth.
Like, how do I get over this fence? Why am I on this side of the fence? And I see it. And I know it seems cliche. People like, the grass isn't always greener. I think the grass can be greener. I'm not going to get stuck in that. And it's not about the grass. It's just that it's like living at your parents' house. I don't know how to explain it another way. I wanted to give a different analogy. It's like, but that's how it's scary. It's scary.
I love that. And then filtering through the things that looking at the things that you are good at and starting to recognize those and really realize those, because a lot of times that is where our genius zone lives. And a lot of times we live in that zone of excellence, which are the things that you're good at, but you might not necessarily like. And so when you get stuck in that, and sometimes that could be like corporate America, where you're at your parents' house, everything's taken care of, but you're not feeling that fulfillment. You're not feeling that soul purpose in you coming on. You're not lit up by it.
Right.
So I love how your assessment helps you figure out what that is to help light you up in what you're doing. And I hate that we're almost running out of time, but tell everyone how they can get the assessment and how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So the assessment will be linked up here, right, Michelle? This is my first time doing stream work. And if you could actually email me at concierge@cmgstrategies.org, or you can also find me on my website at cmgstrategies.org. And you can also find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Charlotte Gurule.
All right, well, I'll give you some takeaways and we'll have you right back in a moment. I love that first question. So number one takeaway is really looking at that it's happening to me and to take responsibility to it. So really looking at that question, what if it isn't happening to me, but for me? And just to reframe that as we're doing things. And then number two is always that default of getting that job. Or I love that idea of corporate America being living at your parents' house. Everything's taken care of for you. Everything's done that way. And again, you may be that zone of excellence for you, or you may be happy doing that. Just to think about in those perspectives to give you a new way to decide, is this right for me? And then we go into takeaway number three, which is really how do you stay stuck? So taking that assessment and looking at what are those frustration points for you? Where do you keep looping and circling and going behind the fence, right? Going back and forth, those circles, those loops, and figure out what are those frustrations that you might not be addressing. And that takes away to our last takeaway for today is really then putting that filter through what are your geniuses. I love how she brings in like all the things that you've done and what are you naturally innate at. And sometimes the things that we don't realize are the things that we are innately good at. We think, oh, everyone can do that. Usually that's where you want to sit in. And so Dr. Charlotte, I'd love for you to give your final takeaway today.
I like blanked. I just wanted to say, Michelle, I'm really grateful that you and I have met. I think that is my takeaway of today. I appreciate you, and I look forward to continuing our conversations and helping other moms find their geniuses and getting on the other side of that fence, whatever that fence may be for them.
And Dr. Charlotte will be in the Mama Genius Hub group as well. So come join us all, and we'll see you all on the next episode. That's a wrap for today's episode, Mama. I hope you found something in these 15 minutes that sparked action towards your dreams. Remember, your purpose matters, your dreams are valid, and you are not alone. If today's conversation spoke to you, come join us at the Mama Genius Hub, where you'll find support, strategy, and sisterhood to turn your calling into real impact. Let's grow this together at connectingmamas.com. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. If this resonates with you, share it with another mom here who needs to hear this. We'll see you next time.